It is April 9th, 2026, and the geopolitical chessboard has completely caught fire. We are actively watching a high-stakes kinetic showdown as Iran's proxy networks clash violently with Israel, while Tehran attempts a quote-unquote soft closure of the Straits of Hormuz in a desperate retaliation for Israeli strikes in Lebanon. Make sure you are subscribed to Titan Mechanics and hit that bell icon so you never miss a critical military intel update. And let us know where you stand right now in the comments. Drop a 5 if you stand with the Israel. Press 6 if you back Iran. Or hit 7 if you just want peace. Now, let's look at the intel. The absolute biggest breaking development right now is Israel's latest military initiative. They have officially unleashed what they are calling Operation Eternal Darkness. Starting yesterday, the Israeli Air Force systematically slammed over 100 Hezbollah targets in a lightning-fast, 10-minute wave of absolute devastation. To put that in perspective, launching that much ordnance in 600 seconds requires the kind of logistical coordination that would make an Amazon fulfillment center look like a disorganized garage sale. This strike ranks as one of the hardest, most punishing hits against the terror network since the infamous pager operations back in 2024. Israeli pilots heavily led this kinetic assault with the F-35I Adir, the absolute apex predator of stealth fighters. This isn't just your standard Lightning II. Israel took the already terrifying American F-35 framework and fundamentally re-engineered the avionics to suit their exact, highly specialized operational doctrine. The Adir slipped into low observable operations, completely bypassing Hezbollah's outdated radar networks, which, frankly, possess the threat detection capabilities of a dial-up modem, to surgically dismantle command centers, hardened missile sites, and elite Radwan forces positioned around the southern Beirut suburbs, the Bekaa Valley, and southern Lebanon. They kept the mission profile incredibly precise and entirely focused on neutralizing the command infrastructure of Hezbollah. And then, this intelligence just broke across the wire. Iranian military sources are currently claiming that United Arab Emirates Mirage 2009 jets were directly involved in a devastating kinetic payload delivery on the Lavan Island oil refinery. That happened yesterday. Geopolitical reports indicate that Washington explicitly back-channeled Tehran to inform them that these specific strikes were not authorized, linked, or facilitated by the US or Israel. The implication here is absolutely massive. This happened either immediately after the ceasefire or just moments before, and it heavily implies that the UAE is completely taking the gloves off. They are directly striking Iran's most critical economic arteries. It seems the Gulf states have realized that negotiating with the IRGC is about as productive as trying to teach a goldfish to play chess, and they are opting for hard power instead. Let's look at the sheer numbers of this broader conflict, because the battle damage assessment released by the White House is frankly staggering. 13,000-plus Iranian military targets struck. 155 Iranian naval vessels completely destroyed. A catastrophic 90% of Iran's weapon manufacturing capabilities neutralized. And an estimated 80% of Iran's nuclear industrial base effectively reduced to glowing gravel. The numbers do not lie. The Iranian military-industrial complex has been pushed back to the Stone Age. And in response to this, President Trump issued a highly definitive strategic statement. He declared that all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel, fully loaded with additional advanced weaponry, and everything necessary for the lethal prosecution and total destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy, will remain fully deployed in and around Iran. They will not move until a real, verifiable agreement is fully complied with by Tehran. He explicitly stated that if the regime deviates for any reason, which, knowing the IRGC's track record of keeping promises, is highly probable, then the kinetic engagements will resume bigger, better, and stronger than anyone has ever witnessed in modern history. He reiterated that the Straits of Hormuz will remain open and safe for global commerce. In the meantime, the American military apparatus is simply resting, reloading, and enthusiastically waiting for the order to resume operations. America is projecting total strategic deterrence. Meanwhile, The Iranian regime's propaganda machine is working overtime, trying to spin this absolute military disaster into some sort of strategic victory. The IRGC is currently relying on fake news outlets and totally fabricated 10-point peace plans to try and save face internationally. It is a classic authoritarian playbook. When your military gets evaporated in a week, just tell your domestic population that you actually won, and hope nobody looks out the window to see the smoldering ruins of their air defense grid. Let's dive deeper into the strategic reality of a potential ground invasion. While some geopolitical analysts are loudly demanding American boots on the ground to permanently secure Tehran, we have to look at the logistical nightmare that actually entails. We are currently nowhere near a full-scale ground invasion posture. There are roughly 50,000 American service members in the broader Middle East theater right now. But that number includes pilots, maintainers, logistics personnel, and command staff. That is not 50,000 infantrymen sitting in armored personnel carriers waiting to cross the berm. To execute a regime-toppling ground war against a mountainous country 2.5 times the size of Texas, Washington would require a massive, undeniable buildup of heavy armored divisions. You cannot hide the deployment of multiple heavy brigades. The operational security alone makes it impossible. Therefore, a ground invasion is strategically unfeasible right now. The Pentagon understands that the juice is simply not worth the squeeze. Not when you can systematically dismantle the regime's infrastructure from 30,000 feet using precision standoff munitions without risking a single American infantryman. Instead, the immediate strategic focus remains entirely on Hezbollah and the proxy networks. President Trump's ceasefire framework specifically isolates these proxy armies, leaving them completely exposed. Israel has made it abundantly clear that their conflict with Hezbollah is a separate engagement entirely, and as the old military adage goes, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, especially when your opponent is bringing heavily modified American aerospace technology and zero patience for terrorist infrastructure. This is raw American air power in action, brilliantly operated by Israeli pilots, and what happens next in Lebanon will fundamentally alter how we view the broader conflict over Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. Let's break down the exact hardware Israel is using to execute Operation Eternal Darkness, because the engineering is a masterclass in lethality. We already mentioned the F-35 Ayadir, but the sheer data processing capability of this jet is what makes it a nightmare for Hezbollah. It cruises at Mach 1.6, roughly 1,200 miles per hour, with a combat radius of around 700 miles purely on internal fuel. This allows the Adir to deeply penetrate highly contested airspace, gather massive amounts of electronic battlefield data through advanced sensor fusion, and seamlessly distribute that targeting data to older, heavier jets flying behind it. It is an invisible quarterback calling the plays while simultaneously dropping precision ordnance. And backing up the Adir is the legendary F-15I Ra'am, the Israeli variant of the Strike Eagle. This airframe brings unapologetic, raw kinetic power to the battle space. With twin engines pushing Mach 2.2 and conformal fuel tanks for extended loiter time, the Ra'am hauls an astonishing 18,000 pounds of precision-guided munitions. When Israel needs to completely erase a deeply buried Hezbollah command bunker or a hardened missile silo from existence, they load up the Ra'am with heavy JDAMs and let gravity do the rest. And you cannot overlook the F-16I Sufa, a highly modified, two-seat fighting Falcon. The Sufa is the undisputed workhorse of the Israeli Air Force. Equipped with conformal fuel tanks for extended reach, incredibly advanced, proprietary Israeli electronic warfare suites, and immense multi-role flexibility, the Sufa executes strike escorts, close air support, and dynamic targeting with ruthless efficiency. These three platforms operating in perfect synchronization reflect the unbreakable U.S.-Israeli military partnership and the overwhelming technological edge that American engineering provides on the modern battlefield. Let's move into the 4D chess strategic analysis. The U.S. approach under this ceasefire framework is a masterstroke of coercive diplomacy. It positions America and its Gulf partners from a position of absolute, undeniable strength. The U.S. military is sitting right on Iran's doorstep, actively demonstrating that they aren't going anywhere. If Tehran fails to comply with the framework, the U.S. military is already locked, loaded, and fully prepared to resume the kinetic dismantling of the country. Simultaneously, allowing Israel to handle Hezbollah separately essentially amputates the proxy arms of the Iranian regime. The true geopolitical center of gravity remains the Straits of Hormuz. Iran is desperately attempting to harass this checkpoint, utilizing it as their final bargaining chip. But they cannot fully control it without triggering devastating consequences. The recent strike on their Lebanon Island oil refinery, potentially by a Gulf neighbor, violently proves that Iran is no longer in the driver's seat. Even though they have restricted commercial flow, their own critical infrastructure is now actively bleeding. The ultimate question currently dominating the war rooms at the Pentagon is this: does the U.S. commit amphibious forces to forcefully rip open that strait, risking the lives of hundreds of Marines? Or do they maintain this suffocating standoff pressure, utilizing airstrikes and proxy engagements until the Iranian economy completely implodes and the regime collapses from the inside out? What do you think the next tactical move is? Do you assess this conflict is about to escalate back into a full-scale air war? Will the Gulf states continue to strike Iranian oil infrastructure independently? Let me know your geopolitical analysis in the comments below. As a reminder, all tactical analysis and intelligence provided on Titan Mechanics is strictly for educational and documentary purposes. We analyze geopolitical strategy and military hardware based on publicly available open-source data. We do not glorify conflict or incite real-world action. Stay informed, stay analytical, and we will see you on the next briefing.